I'm Eric Butts.
And I'm Jim Butts.
And we're SuicideFantasyFootball.com at the War Room to tell you about some Suicide Fantasy Football strategies. Jim, there's lots of different ways of playing Suicide Fantasy Football. A few of them I've already been unsuccessful with. How about you, Jim? You ain't doing too great either.
I haven't been entirely great.
All right, so my first strategy that I used year number one was to try and save some studs until the end. I tried to use the fringe players early. You say that, Jim. Willie T finished 3 out of 70 people.
Did he win?
Using that 3 out of 70 people, and a couple of minor mistakes, one of which was me telling him to put in Sean Green when he didn't even play, away from winning the league. So I don't think you can say that strategy doesn't work. It just didn't work for me.
Or Willie T.
Top 3 finish, that's working.
Didn't work for Matt Prizzi.
Whatever.
He won the championship.
He did win the championship.
And it didn't work for him.
He just really looked at matchups. He didn't decide to save people till later, but he didn't just use all the studs early either.
Listen, like I said, I haven't won, so I don't really know. My thought process always is you never save anybody because you never know when they're going to get hurt, what's going to happen. So if you don't play Peyton Manning and he goes out week 5, week 6, you didn't get to play Peyton Manning.
I agree with that with some of the aging people. The LaDainian Tomlinsons, you probably want to get in and use them early before they get dinged up and aren't playing. But
not just that, every year a good group of people establish themselves from week 8 to week 16 who you would never have played week 1. So if you're saving your studs, you don't get to use those people that are establishing themselves like Mike Vick did, but he did it from week 1 last year. But like a Peyton Hillis or some of the other guys that you didn't really think about in the beginning of the year, but as the season wore on, or as their number 1 guy got hurt, the number 2 guy comes in and he starts dominating, you use them. There's always people available.
So strategy, use the studs early, save them for later. That's just one little aspect of it. I got a genius strategy this year.
Talk to me before you make your picks.
No, not at all. If I was playing SuicideFantasyFootball.com this year and I was joining the Grand Prize Super Bowl League, what I'd do is I'd go to a buddy and I'd go, hey, look, there's this real cool league out there, Suicide Fantasy Football. It's great. Pick new teams every week, blah, blah, blah. I want you to do 2 teams, and I'm going to do 2 teams. If I win, you go to the Super Bowl with me. If you win, you take me to the Super Bowl. Now, instead of just having a 1 in 500 chance to win the Super Bowl, to go to the Super Bowl, we just got ourselves a 4 in 500 chance to win the Super Bowl, to go to the Super Bowl. That's genius, dude. You got to admit. You hate to admit that I'm right. That's a brilliant strategy. Right. You're an idiot. All right, so give me another strategy.
Listen, I like what you're saying. The way that I think it is now that it works out here, I would target bad defenses. That's the way I think is the most successful. When you see, I would stay away from divisional games because divisional games,
low scoring.
Defenses normally know each other better, so they normally are lower scoring. Every once in a while they go up, but normally defenses play better about each other because they know the personnel on the other side of the ball.
Yes, except the Texans and Colts, always high scoring.
Sure. But you go through, the Redskins and the Giants.
Yes.
If the Redskins are averaging 27 points a week, they're scoring 14 that week.
Chiefs and Raiders, that's something you might want to take some people from.
2 bad
Raiders
teams,
and Chargers.
But you're better off with a team like going in last year. Any team that played the Lions had a better shot of scoring a lot of points than a divisional rival.
Do you take into consideration teams flying from the west to the east and east to the west?
I don't. But, they're not flying there that day. They're flying a couple days early. If there are other factors, and that's just one of them, I might think
weather. If you're a warm weather team flying from the west to play in Buffalo.
Sure. If you're talking about a running back who's going and playing, on the grass and the weather might be a little bit bad, that could be a factor.
And he's not Dorsey Levens. He's not a mutter.
He's not a tough mutter. But if you're doing that, if you know there's going to be some rain, you might not go with the wide receiver, the quarterback combo there. That's another strategy. If you know that your wide receiver, use the tandems, try to get a connection, try to hit home runs, because you got to have big scores to win.
Home teams, only pick home teams. I've seen some people be somewhat successful with that.
Casey Mazzone says pick him out of a hat.
Out of a hat he did, and was pretty successful. Yeah. And then there's always he did beat me. He beat you that year too, dude. So relax. He won, or he came in second place. Came in second place, so he beat us both. All right, so that's some of our strategies on how to play Suicide Fantasy Football. If you've come up with other ones that have been successful for you, or ones that you're going to use this year, Jim at suicidefantasysports.com. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, SFF.com. Check out the Suicide Fantasy Girls on Facebook. Like our page so you get the vote.